Hi guys, welcome to another video on this Porsche 911. In this one, I'm hoping we get it looking like a Porsche again. There's been loads of videos now, all structural based. This one is bodywork based. So yeah, fingers crossed we'll see that iconic shape come together. So check it out. Okay, so I'm going to make a start with the doors, but before I can put the skins on them, I need to repair the inner frames. Both of them have rust all along the bottom, and I've got a repair panel to fit to both of them. Okay, so we've now got our door shell all repaired. That's gone in quite nicely. I've prepped the door slam panel here and the sill, so they're now ready to weld on. And likewise with here. So I'm just going to pin everything in place, make sure I'm happy with all the fitment, throw the door on, make sure I'm happy with how that's fitting. And once I'm happy with that, I can then think about skidding it and then move on to the other side. Okay, with the door on, I could see that the bottom flange was too close to the sill, so here I'm just trimming it back to make sure that there's a nice gap. Okay, with the near side done, I can now move on to this offside door. It's similar, maybe slightly worse, but still not too bad in the grand scheme of things. And I've got a weird little bit of rust here that I've got to sort. That's such an odd place to rust out. But yeah, let's get this repaired. So I start by trimming the repair panel to size and then clamp it in place. Once I've done that and I'm happy with the fitment, I can cut it in and tack it with the welder. So that is the framework repaired on both doors, and this little awkward repair here too. Okay, so both doors are done now. We've given the insides a nice coat of epoxy primer, just where those repairs were, and then gone round the outside with some weld through primer. So these are now ready to receive the door skins. And the shell has just had a bit of a clean up, all the areas where it's been welded, and they've all had a nice coat of epoxy primer as well. Paid particular attention to in here because we'll be putting these rear quarter panels on soon. So yeah, we just wanted to get that nice while those panels are off because access is nice and easy. Nice in the engine bay as well. So yeah, some good progress, and yeah, of course I've got the sill and the B-pillar panel in this side as well. So I'm now going to get the sill and the B-pillar panel on the other side, get those doors fitted, and then offer up the rear quarters and see where we're at. Okay, with that done, I can turn my attention to repairing the rear quarter panels. The near side one was cut into 3 pieces and it has some accident damage here. You can see the crease right along this line. Okay, so I've now got the 2 halves tacked together. I won't fully weld that until it's all test fitted. So the next thing to do is to repair the flange for the window aperture. There are a couple of other awkward little areas I need to repair around the rear light housing. I didn't spot these initially. Okay, now I can move on to this rear light housing bracket. As you can see, the bracket is spot welded to this piece that I've cut out. I start by cutting out a piece the same shape and then lay this over the top and drill holes all the way through the bracket and the new piece to make sure that I can locate the bracket in the correct position. I can then spot weld it onto the new piece. And that is the rear light housing all repaired. This was the last repair I had to do on this rear quarter before we could fit it. Okay, so I've just pinned the quarter panel in place. I'm slowly running out of tech screws because I've got 5 panels in place at the moment and I want to do the other side and get everything mocked up with the door skins before I weld any of it. So I'm gonna have to get some more of those. But I've got my template for the window in here. It's fitting nice around here. This is the original cut line. That's lining up nice. I've got a little tack here. And then another tech screw at the back. You can see that my the bottom of where the spot weld drill lines up with the old spot weld. So I know that's where that came off. That said, I want to fit the engine lid before I weld any of that as well, just so we've got a little bit of adjustment there if we need it. So the next thing I'm going to do is make a little repair piece for in here and pop the skin on. Okay, so I start by using my profile tool to take the correct profile of the rear quarter. I can then cut out a piece of metal and use the slip roll to make it to the same shape, and keep checking my profile tool to make sure I get this shape correct. Okay, so I've now made this repair piece. That's all in place now, so I've just got to weld that into the quarter panel, and then I can weld this up, smooth it all out. I might do all of that with the quarter panel off, but the next thing I'm going to do is just pop this door skin on, make sure that the gaps are in the right ballpark, and yeah, I'll be happy at that point. We can do any final gapping later. We just need to make sure it's roughly in the right place. Okay, so I've whipped the door off. I was happy with how that looked in terms of fitment. The next thing I'm going to do is just spot weld all along here as per factory. We've got some spot welds along here as well. From factory, they also had the odd spot weld along here. I've had people comment in the past saying, oh, you shouldn't skin a door like that. But for me, if it was good enough for Porsche back in the day, it's good enough for me now. So I'm going to do that, and then I've just got to fold this lip over with a hammer and dolly, and then I can pop it back onto the shell. Okay, so that's the last of the spot welds now done on the door, and I can now just use my hammer and dolly to fold it over the return lip and make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so that door is now fully skinned, spot welded around all the edges. Really cool trick that I'm pretty sure one of my subscribers recommended is when I spot weld the skin along here was to use a sacrificial piece of metal. So I used some 2mm plate and put that between the skin and the spot weld electrode, and that still spot welded the back of the frame to the skin really nicely, but it just stopped distortion through here. And I was quite surprised it still did kind of spot weld that 2mm plate to the outer skin, but it just twisted off. And yeah, really pleased with how that has worked. So if you're listening, whoever gave me that tip, thank you very much. That's one I'll be using in the future. So now I can get this door on. Okay, so I've thrown the door on. So I don't know if you guys remember it being in one of the earlier videos, but I popped this sill on with the old door skin in place, and then put some Tek screws in, so I knew where to locate that sill. So bear in mind, I've literally just skinned this door, we've put the sill on. This gap is mint, really pleased with that, but the gap at the back is quite big, which isn't the end of the world, because Porsche from factory used shims to move the whole door back. I've got some shims which I'm going to pop in now. So I'm going to close this up a touch. Ideally I want a 4mm gap all the way down, but the bottom gap is really good, really pleased with that. So I'm going to move this door back. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to finish repairing this quarter panel, whip it off, we'll weld the sill on, and we'll weld this B-pillar panel in, and then we can think about getting the quarter panel fitted properly. Okay, so I've now shimmed the door back. I'll show you those. See, just behind the hinge, just here, there's some aluminium shims. And that has moved the door back about 2.5 mil. So if we measure this gap now, if you can see that, we got 4 mil there. Just under 5. Just under 5 there as well. So we're in the right ballpark when it comes to fitting this quarter panel. I don't really want to shim the door any further back. So when it comes to fitting the quarter panel, I will just try and move that 1 mil further forward, and then we should have a nice 4 mil gap all the way down here. And we've got 4 mil along the bottom as well. So really pleased with how that's come out. I can now weld in this sill. I can weld in the door or the B-pillar panel. I'm going to whip off this rear quarter panel, probably repair this off the car, and then come back and fit that later. And there we go, that is the door jamb panel all plug welded on. I've just got to grind these down now, and then it's ready for the rear quarter panel. Well, it would be ready for the rear quarter panel if the rear quarter panel was finished. I just have to do this repair at the front and then I can put it on. And there we go, that is the rear quarter panel fully repaired and ready to fit. This has come out really nice. Well, it doesn't matter how careful you are, sometimes that panel just wants to suck in when you weld it. So here I've ground down the weld and I'm using the pin puller to pull it back out and into shape with a little bit of hammer and dolly work as well. And there we go, that is this near side complete. I'm really happy with how this has come out. It's got lovely gaps all the way around, and yeah, that iconic Porsche shape is back, so yeah, really happy with this. Right, back onto the off side of the car. I start by offering up the rear quarter just to make sure that the door frame is sitting nice and we've got a good gap all the way around. Okay, so I'm happy with that gap, so I can now throw on the door skin. I do exactly the same as the other side, offer it up, clamp it in place, and then I can run around it with the spot welder and fold the return lip over. Okay, so I've done all the spot welds down the front edge of the door and along the top there. The next thing is to just spot weld the skin. And as I said earlier, I'm using a sacrificial bit of metal, 2mm thick, so decent thickness to it. And I'll show you how that works. And there we go, you can see a really flat spot weld here, hardly any distortion at all. So now I can fold the return lip over with a hammer and dolly. And there we go, that is another door skin successfully completed. I can now pop the door on and just make sure it all fits just like before. Okay, so the door's on, we've got a nice gap along the bottom here. And then this gap is going to need some work. It's about 6 or 7 mil up here. And then we've got a 4mm gap down here, and I have had to just reshape the bottom of this quarter panel and put a small repair in here. But yeah, generally speaking, that's in the right ballpark. It's fitting nice and flush across the top. I've got a nice gap there, and yeah, the gap along the sill's good, so I'm pretty happy with where the door is. Okay, so some pretty good progress in this video. So we got all of that near side done. This offside is well underway now. We've got this door all finished. Mostly gapped up. We have got some work to do down this back edge with this rear quarter, but I also have some repairs to do on this quarter panel before I fit it. So in the next one, I'll get the sill, the door jamb panel and the quarter panel on, and we should be able to get this front end all finished as well. We've got some new wings, a new bonnet. We've got to fit the front latch panel as well. So plenty to go, still to do left for the next video. So if you've enjoyed this one, please remember to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps our channel grow. And yeah, always keen to see your comments as well. Thanks for watching. See you later.